Okay, welcome to the first of several short lectures on the Canterbury Tales. In general, to give you a little bit of background, in these first several slides, is just really kind of to set the scene for you, and then we're going to move into the specific tale that I ask you to read, which is the Miller's Tale. First, you need to kind of understand what's going on in Europe at this point in time. After last week, we just started looking at what are some of the ideas of obscenity, what are some of the things that are being seen as obscene. As we move into the Middle Ages, which again is referred to historically in many different ways, the medieval period, the Dark Ages, but it really covers a broad range of history. We're going to look at maybe the 9th through the 14th, 15th centuries, and a couple of things happened during this time. We have a massive wipeout of people. The bubonic plague comes, people don't know what's causing it, and so we have a lot of death, and we also have a time when education is not as important. It was often in the past referred to as the Dark Ages, thinking that education was completely gone. That's not true. We know that universities were still alive. We had the University of Paris. There were several other universities, not in the modern sense of the university, but there were still areas of learning that were happening. But people were starting to turn more to modern issues instead of looking back to the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans and looking back at some philosophical ideas. We start to see the church getting heavily invested in education. And so the Catholic Church at this point starts building and creating education, and so obviously it turns into a very religious oriented experience. And so that's why we also see that monks carry on the tradition of literacy at this point in time, continuing to copy books in the monasteries and sending them out to different libraries throughout Western Europe. And they are the ones who did keep literacy alive because most people, as we're going to see, they had other things to worry about. They really didn't need to be educated. They really didn't need to know how to read or write in order to take care of daily business for the most part. Um, the importance of Black Death cannot be overstated for you because it's going to lead to a couple of issues for us. One, in this plate you have of the bubonic plague, the bubonic pustules, which are coming up on the different parts of the body. Once these start appearing, very soon afterwards, people would die, and there was only a small number of people who would recover. Out of this, when this starts happening, they don't know why it's happening. They don't know that it's because of fleas. They don't know it's because of the unsanitary and hygiene conditions. And so the church starts to play an increasingly important role because of their vows to take care of fellow man. You have monks and nuns and priests who go and take care of the ill. And so when they come in and they would maybe say a mass, they would sometimes just actually physically take care of them, bathe them, help them in their final moments, etc. But we see an important aspect coming out of this. The church wins because of this. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if you take a priest who goes into a village and he starts to pray for the people, he takes care of the people. If he were to die because he gets bitten and develops the Black Death and dies, then he'll be seen as a martyr. You know, he was one who went in where other people wouldn't because most people were fleeing the villages. He would go in and take care of people. He's died. He's a martyr. The church has benefited because they had people who are going out and dying for their cause. If he were to not be bitten or not get sick, and he's able to go in and take care of people, comfort them, then of course the survivors are going to just rant and rave about the priest who came in and helped them. So we really see an elevation of the church at this point in time in everyone's daily lives because they really have appreciated what the church has done. So, on top of that, then the church is starting to build more institutions of education. I don't want to say higher learning necessarily because some of them are, but schools, for lack of a better term, of all different ranges, which have a religious, doctrine study to it. So we have the church in good esteem because of the priests going into these villages, taking care of the people with Black Death throughout Europe, and with education, the church is at a pretty good point. So, what we're going to see is the church now starts exerting that influence on what is proper. Whereas in the past, in ancient Greece, ancient Rome, before Rome was converted to Christianity, you had pagans, you had people who worshiped different gods, so there was no one group that told people what was proper, what was not, what was good, what was bad, etc. So it was really up to individual families, individual groups, individual cities to decide what was appropriate for them. Now, with the rise and here really the strength of the Catholic Church increasing, we see that we now have a body throughout Western Europe that is able to start exerting its influence and saying, this is what is proper, that is not. They start building institutions of learning where they teach people, this is proper, that is not. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people didn't know how to read and write. It was mostly the monks who kept up reading and writing at this point. And that's what these different slides show you. You can go back and look through these. Each week I have posted kind of the uninterrupted PowerPoint because all of the PowerPoints run about 50 to 70 slides. So I've made all of them available without my commentary, so you can go back and look through them on your own and also look at them with the commentary. And here we see a calendar that had been done by the monks. And so we see the different parts of the year. You see the zodiac signs at the top so we know what part of the year it is. What is going on in a village life at any particular part of the year. So we have the part of the year when the fairs are set up. We have winter when people are staying indoors. We then have the planting season. We then have summer and people are out and about and mingling. So it's important that the church has started to play a more important role. Black Death has really pushed the church into the prominent role. And we have people who, as you can see from this, for the most part, their daily lives are just run by the season. We see them as being very agricultural. And on a day-to-day basis, they're just worried about surviving. They're not really worried about education, and there's really no need, if you are a farmer, to learn how to read or write. As long as you could communicate with your family, with your neighbors, you would have a common language. You really don't need to keep an accurate accounting of, how much lettuce you're getting this year because you either have it or you don't. So most of these people were subsistence farming. They were farming small areas at first just for their own survival. Then we do start to get lords and serfs and the feudal system coming in where people then start working parts of the land to give to the lord, and they keep a certain amount. But even then, they don't need to keep track of it because someone in the lord's retinue, someone who is around him, will be the one who is able to read and write and keep track of the records. And a few final images for you. On these last two images, it's interesting because in this last one here that I'm pointing to now, this is actually the Louvre Museum. It looks much different than what it does now. This was the middle era of the Louvre Museum. The Louvre was originally built as a fortress. Then, when the kings decided to move in and make it their home, they fancied it up, and this is this version we see here. This version was destroyed and then was rebuilt into the lower, smaller U shape that we know today.